What is up, guys? Welcome back to Early Access Gamer. We've all got that digital graveyard of unfinished games, but today we're cutting through the filler with 15 masterclass single-player adventures that demand to be seen through to the very end, including one surreal sci-fi mystery trapped in a 22-minute time loop. Let's dive in. Sitting at number 12, The Last of Us Part 1 delivers an experience that hits completely differently because of how it handles player progression. First arriving on May 28, 2019, this adventure completely abandons traditional skill trees and gear upgrades. Progression is entirely knowledge-based, locking you into a strict 22-minute loop where knowing the secrets of the universe means you could technically beat the whole game on your very first run. The real genius lies in how quantum mechanics govern exploration. Quantum shards and even an entire shifting moon instantly teleport the microsecond they drop out of your line of sight. You will spend moments standing in darkness, switching off your flashlight in pitch black rooms to track shifting objects purely through audio cues. It turns spatial awareness into a mind-bending puzzle where curiosity is your absolute greatest tool. Landing at number 12, The Last of Us Part 1 takes Naughty Dog's legendary 2013 journey and rebuilds it from the ground up on modern engine tech. You guide smuggler Joel across a desolate America devastated by a brutal fungal infection, tasked with escorting teenager Ellie to a resistance group. What makes this adventure completely unmissable is how seamlessly the narrative feeds into tense, desperate gameplay. Every encounter demands smart resource management and environmental stealth, as you scavenge raw materials to craft improvised survival gear on the fly. One minute you are quietly sneaking past terrifying infected hostiles, and the next you are thrust into visceral third-person combat against ruthless human scavengers. It is raw, atmospheric, and culminates in an unforgettable, morally complex finale that will leave you staring at the screen in silence. If you want a story worth finishing, this remake is absolute perfection. Scrapping together a makeshift shiv while crouching behind a shattered desk as an infected hostile twitches nearby creates a brand of tension few games ever master. At number 12, The Last of Us Part 1 rebuilt Naughty Dog's masterpiece from the ground up on modern engine technology back in 2022, and it remains an absolute high watermark for narrative adventures. Guiding smuggler Joel as he escorts teenager Ellie across a desolate, fungal-devastated United States is a relentless test of nerve. The gameplay forces you to scrape for every rag, blade, and binding, turning resource management and craftable survival gear into high-stakes choices. Seamlessly blending environmental stealth with visceral third-person combat against desperate human scavengers and terrifying infected, every single engagement feels dangerously unpredictable. It all builds toward an unforgettable, morally complex finale that cements this journey as an absolute must-finish experience. At spot 12, crawling through dense, overgrown foliage while hearing the terrified whispers of human scavengers makes The Last of Us Part 1 hit completely differently. When this remake dropped on PlayStation 5 in late 2022 and landed on PC early the following year, Naughty Dog didn't just update the textures, they ported the brutal dynamic enemy artificial intelligence straight over from their second game. Opponents flank aggressively and react dynamically to your movements, forcing you to constantly adapt your stealth tactics, craft survival gear on the fly, and scrape by on every single brick or shotgun shell. Every gunshot and drawn bowstring carries tangible physical weight thanks to full DualSense adaptive trigger support, while soft lighting and granular destructible cover make the post-apocalyptic atmosphere suffocatingly real. Add in industry-leading accessibility options like high-contrast navigation modes, and escorting Ellie across a ruined America delivers one of the most satisfying, morally complex narrative payoffs in gaming history. Landing at number 12 on our list, The Last of Us Part 1 takes survival storytelling to terrifying heights. Naughty Dog completely rebuilt this iconic adventure on modern engine tech, casting you into a desolate, fungal-devastated United States as smuggler Joel escorts teenager Ellie across a ruined nation, scavenging resources, crafting survival gear, and surviving visceral combat against mutated, infected, and hostile scavengers keeps tension sky high. Released for PlayStation 5, Windows, and Xbox Series X and S on October 27th, 2023, the game delivers a fluid dual narrative structure. Swapping between characters brings genius mechanics like Alan's plot board in The Dark Place, where gathering narrative echoes rewrites reality to physically alter your surroundings and open fresh pathways. Paired with Saga's Mind Place deduction board, this investigation loop heightens the tension, culminating in an unforgettable, morally complex finale every gamer needs to experience. Clinging to survival inside a dark, fungus-choked skyscraper while hostiles stalk you from the shadows is pure, unadulterated tension. Holding spot 12, The Last of Us Part 1 takes Naughty Dog's iconic post-apocalyptic adventure and rebuilds it from the ground up on modern engine tech. You guide hardened smuggler Joel across a devastated United States, escorting teenager Ellie to a resistance group. The gameplay shines because every single decision carries immense weight. Resource management is brutally tight, forcing you to constantly weigh environmental stealth against visceral third-person combat. Scrounging for supplies and crafting survival gear on the fly makes every violent clash against infected hostiles and desperate human scavengers feel terrifyingly real. It all builds toward an unforgettable, morally complex finale that makes every harrowing step of the journey absolutely worth finishing. Creeping through overgrown, spore-choked ruins while desperately crafting survival gear from scavenged scraps earns The Last of Us Part 1 our number 12 spot. Rebuilt from the ground up on modern engine tech, this journey guides smuggler Joel across a desolate United States devastated by a fungal infection as he escorts teenager Ellie to a resistance group. The gameplay hits with oppressive atmosphere, combining environmental stealth, tight resource management, and visceral third-person combat against terrifying infected hostiles and ruthless human scavengers. It all culminates in an unforgettable, morally complex finale that lands like a punch to the chest. Naughty Dog has long perfected this cinematic momentum, whether refinement meant letting Nathan Drake swing across chasms with a grappling hook into high-impact aerial melee attacks in his May 2016 PlayStation 4 outing, re-released in 2022 in the Legacy of Thieves collection, or stripping away hope for pure survival here. Either way, this journey is essential. Twisting cold government architecture into a chaotic paranormal war zone, Control claims our 12th spot with unmatched atmospheric flair. Nothing beats the sheer visceral satisfaction of unleashing Jesse's dynamic launch ability, seamlessly ripping heavy filing cabinets, office desks, and solid concrete straight from the floorboards to slam into incoming hostiles. First launching in August 2019 before upgrading to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X in early 2021, the game remains an absolute masterclass in kinetic combat. Your primary tool, the modular service weapon, morphs dynamically to fit the fight, shifting smoothly from a brutal short-range shatter blast to a precise long-range sniper mode. Gaining powers like levitation unlocks rewarding Metroidvania traversal back through the shifting brutalist halls of the oldest house to discover hidden secret areas. Tied together with cryptic live-action training videos, surreal multimedia lore documents, and bizarre paranormal mysteries, seeing this adventure through to the end is an essential thrill. Landing at number 12 is The Last of Us Part 1, Naughty Dog's complete ground-up remake of their iconic post-apocalyptic masterpiece. Guiding hardened smuggler Joel across a desolate United States to escort teenage Ellie through a brutal fungal apocalypse, this journey builds toward one of the most morally complex finales in gaming history. Rebuilt on modern engine tech, the stealth and resource management hit with terrifying weight. The combat toolset feels noticeably expanded, giving you creative freedom and open-ended level designs to blend craftable survival gear and environmental tactics. You get a lethal crossbow to quietly drop armored hostiles, along with a tactical knife for clutch close-range panic defenses when hostiles breach your line. Whether you are blending alchemy, stealth, or utilizing Hugo's ability to manipulate rat swarms, every encounter demands instant adaptation against infected hostiles and scavengers. Ever since dropping on October 18, 2022 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PC, and Nintendo Switch Cloud, it remains an unmissable adventure. At number 12, few post-apocalyptic journeys hold your attention hostage quite like walking smuggler Joel through a ruined, fungal-overgrown America. The Last of Us Part 1 takes Naughty Dog's landmark narrative and rebuilds it from the ground up on modern engine tech, making every desperate encounter feel agonizingly real. What makes this adventure essential to finish is the masterclass in pacing paired with punishing survival mechanics. You are constantly scrounging for supplies to craft survival gear while calculating your next move in real time. Environmental stealth forces you to creep past horrifying infected hostiles, but when direct combat erupts, the visceral third-person action puts your back against the wall against ruthless human scavengers. Escorting teenager Ellie across desolate cities to reach a resistance group transforms the story into an emotional gauntlet. By the time you reach that morally complex finale, you realize every terrifying, heart-pounding step was undeniably worth taking. At number 12, sliding through broken, overgrown skyscrapers while scrounging for spare scissors and rag bindings never loses its tension. The Last of Us Part 1 takes the monumental 2013 story of smuggler Joel escorting teenage Ellie across a fungal-ravaged wasteland and rebuilds it completely on modern engine tech. What makes this journey an absolute essential to finish is how every single mechanic feeds into the sheer desperation of their trip. You are constantly balancing environmental stealth with tight resource management, crafting survival gear on the fly while dodging terrifying infected hostiles and ruthless human scavengers. The third-person combat feels visceral, heavy, and completely unforgiving when an encounter goes sideways. Every bullet matters, every shadow is a lifeline, and the relationship between Joel and Ellie builds toward an unforgettable, morally complex finale that will stay with you long after the credits roll. Claiming spot number 12, The Last of Us Part 1 reimagines Naughty Dog's 2013 post-apocalyptic masterpiece into an unmatched adventure. You guide smuggler Joel escorting teenager Ellie across a desolate United States devastated by a fungal infection. The gameplay seamlessly merges environmental stealth, resource management, craftable survival gear, and visceral third-person combat against infected hostiles and scavengers. Rebuilt completely from the ground up with high-definition art assets, the desolate atmospheric world sets a gold standard for remakes. Much like Bluepoint Games achieved on February 6, 2018 with their PlayStation 4 remake, which overhauled stiff 2005 climbing controls and centered on 16 massive colossi with the horse aggro, this release offers modern control layout options and tight stamina management for incredible fluidity. You even get a feature-rich photo mode to pause mid-action, altering camera angles, framing, and filters during brutal encounters. It all leads to an unforgettable, morally complex finale you must finish. At number 12, we have The Last of Us Part 1. Naughty Dog completely rebuilt this iconic post-apocalyptic journey in 2022, and the narrative emotional payoff remains unmatched. You guide hardened smuggler Joel across a ruined America to escort teenage Ellie, but it is the desperate, razor-thin margin of survival that keeps you glued to the controller. Combat forces you to improvise constantly. You are scavenging for blade scraps and rag bindings just to craft a single shiv or health kit while lethal infected hostiles hunt you down. The brilliant push and pull between tight environmental stealth and visceral third-person gunfights makes every single arena feel like a life-or-death gamble. Human scavengers flank your cover aggressively, forcing you to manage precious ammunition on the fly. Watching Joel and Ellie's bond harden across this desolate world builds toward one of the most morally complex, unforgettable endings in gaming history. If you have never seen it through to the credits, it is essential playing. At number 12, the 2022 remake of The Last of Us Part 1 proves that a legendary story only grows stronger with modern engine tech. Guiding smuggler Joel across a desolate, fungal-devastated United States to escort teenager Ellie remains an emotionally gripping journey, but the overhauled gameplay is what makes every fight feel terrifyingly real. The magic lies in how refined stealth and survival mechanics let you shape your playstyle on the fly. You can slip through the shadows for silent knife takedowns, mark hostiles with a bow, or craft vital ammunition right in the middle of a desperate firefight. Even basic scavenging items get a lethal upgrade, letting you repurpose glass bottles as vicious melee weapons rather than simple audio distractions. Fighting off horrifying infected and ruthless human scavengers demands absolute adaptability, building toward a morally complex finale that fully earns its place among the elite. Sliding into number 12, few journeys hold a grip on you quite like The Last of Us Part 1. Rebuilt from the ground up on modern engine tech, this remake turns every encounter across a ruined, fungal, devastated America into an absolute pressure cooker. You guide hardened smuggler Joel escorting teenager Ellie across desolate landscapes, but it is the desperate survival loop that makes this adventure unforgettable. You are constantly scrounging through darkened, abandoned buildings for basic resources, carefully managing split-second moments of panic while assembling craftable survival gear on the fly. Third-person combat is brutally visceral, seamlessly blending environmental stealth with desperate firefights against horrific infected hostiles and opportunistic human scavengers. Every single bullet matters, and every brick you hurl to buy 2 seconds of breathing room feels like a massive triumph. It all builds toward a morally complex finale that lingers long after the credits roll, proving exactly why this journey is worth finishing. Crossing those 15 incredible finish lines is just the beginning of your backlog, so hit that subscribe button if you love great stories. If you are looking for absolute masterpieces that justify the time investment from our single-player adventure list, you need to check out our breakdown of the highest rated 10 out of 10 games you cannot miss this year. Click that video on screen right now.